As always, this is the first step. Work from left to right with your long duster. Dust the corners for cobwebs, the door ledges, any of the grooves where dust can collect, the recessed lighting where cobwebs will also collect. Just work around the whole room from left to right, top to bottom. And also make sure you dust those baseboards, the top of the window ledges, and also the window sills. Sometimes these areas will need some additional work and you will need to go back with a blue rag and actually wet wipe those areas. But here you just continue along with your long dusting and make sure you dust those top shelves that you will not be able to reach otherwise. Make sure you're using 2 hands for this step, just allowing yourself to give you that additional support so nothing will fall off and break. And the second step will be using the hand brush. You'd use this to brush off any fabric chairs that you would find in the room. And also you would use the same tool to brush off the small area rugs, small little carpets that you may find in the room. And this will be the next step. You're going to go ahead and pre-treat the areas that you're going to be cleaning. Just move away any items that are in your way and give yourself space to work. Spray some bleach all over the sink. Make sure you get bleach inside the drain and also the drain stopper. Just spray it bleach all over the faucets. And then on the counters, we're just going to pre-treat it with our all-purpose cleaner. Now, depending on how dirty the kitchen is, that's going to determine how much product you actually put onto those surfaces. So if it's not too dirty, you're not putting a whole lot. I mean, the more dirty it is, you're going to obviously spray just a little bit more. And the benefit of actually pre-treating your surfaces is it allows for that proper dwell time, which is the time that it takes for the product to start working on the dirt that may be stuck onto the counters. It will start softening it for you. So by the time you get to using your kitchen sponge and you start going over the counters with your kitchen sponge, as you'll see in this step, it would actually be easier for you to lift off and remove some of that stuck on dirt. So while you're working here, you just want to be removing anything that's on the counter and cleaning underneath and behind, anything that you may find that's actually on the counter. And while cleaning the microwave, do not forget to clean the roof of the microwave, the inside top part of the microwave. There's always dirt that gets up to the top over there. And that's one area that is forgotten a lot. And it's also one of the areas that you will get a lot of complaints about. So you have to make sure that while you're cleaning the microwave, you reach up to the top and you actually bend down and check the top while you're cleaning it. And while you're here, you also want to move the microwave and clean behind it. There's always food that gets stuck behind the microwaves and underneath, so you have to move it. Make sure you clean that area behind there. And here we're following the golden rule of cleaning, which is to work by tool and focus on using one tool at a time. Here she's going around the kitchen and using the kitchen sponge to hit all the areas where you will need to use the sponge. And this actually saves time and energy in the long run. It helps you stay on focus, and it also helps you keep track of what you actually are doing. Oftentimes we see people trying to switch tools, and this gets them all confused, and they tend to miss a lot of things, and also they're also spending too much time. So working one tool at a time actually saves you time and energy in the long run. And continuing with the sponge, you're going to work on the stove. The stove is not too dirty. You don't need to use too much of the cleanser. Just make sure that you do get in between the stove knobs and the stove itself. The kitchen sponge is thin enough to fit in between those spaces, so make sure you get in between there. And next we'll be cleaning the kitchen sink. This is the rubber stopper. On some sinks, this part is removable. If it is, go ahead and remove it and clean the underside and the sides of it really well. Just give the sink a good scrub there with your Comet. Make sure you get all the food that could be stuck onto the base and clean it really, really well. And also use this toothbrush-like brush to get the inside of that drain and also the underlip of the sink and around the faucets. If the customer has a dish drying rack such as this one, those will also get cleaned and wiped out really well. And in keeping with our rule of working one step at a time, this is now the rinsing phase. And while she is rinsing out the inside of that sink, this is also the time that she rinses anything else that needs to be rinsed out. And you notice this is also the step that she will go ahead and rinse off the glass from the inside of the microwave. The whole point of doing this all together is that you're only rinsing one time, and this is a strategy that actually helps you to save time in the long run while you're cleaning the kitchen. And then you just go ahead and set everything off to the side and you just let it air dry, and you find something else you can do in the kitchen. Here we're just gonna go ahead and wipe out the inside of the microwave, and for that we'll use a paper towel. For this step you could either use a paper towel or you could use a clean yellow rag. Obviously, the benefit of using a paper towel is that you have less lint that will be left over in that microwave. Everything just wipes out a lot cleaner. And this actually is my preference whenever I am cleaning the inside of the microwave, is to use a paper towel. And the next step will be to wipe off the residue that was lifted off with the sponge earlier. To do this, you just use your yellow rag. If you need to, you'll make it a little bit more wet, make it easier for you to slide along the countertop. Also moving all the items you find on the countertop there, just so you can clean behind and underneath everything that you find on the countertop. And this should go fairly quickly because you would have lifted off all the dirt that was stuck onto the countertop using the sponge earlier. And also in this phase, you make sure you wipe those light switches, the disposal switch. They get really dirty from the customer just turning it on and off every time they're washing their dishes. So just make sure you wipe those light switches. And in this phase, everything that is getting wiped is anything that you would have gotten wet earlier. You just go ahead and wipe that in this phase. Here you see her wipe those drip pans, and you saw her wipe that rubber stopper, and she wipes the entire sink and makes it completely dry. And it's a constant shift of all the items you would encounter on the counters. Just make sure you clean behind the microwave and behind anything that you would find on those countertops. So it's a constant shifting of items that you would find on the countertop. But always remembering to put it back to the original position where the customer had it before you moved it. And also in keeping with our rule to be working with one tool at a time, here she's focused on using the yellow rag to be wiping, and this is the wiping phase. She's wiping the backsplash, she's wiping all of the switches, and this is just the wiping phase of everything that would need to be wet wiped. And she would complete this step throughout the entire kitchen with her wet wiping with the yellow rag. And now that we have completed our wiping phase in the kitchen, we will proceed to cleaning the cabinets. Just spray a little bit of the all-purpose cleaner onto the rag itself. And don't get it too wet, just enough to make it moist and for you to be able to wipe the cabinets and remove any food that may be stuck onto the surfaces. So just move left to right, top to bottom, spending a little more time in the areas that you need to, and moving fairly quickly in the areas that do not need for you to spend a whole lot of time on there. Here you see her going to this little cubby, and she lifts off to clean the underneath of that toaster oven. There's some books over to the sides. Just go ahead and move those and wipe behind and underneath them as well. And just continue working your way around the kitchen. And here she is working on the front of the refrigerator, wiping the handle of the refrigerator and using the other hand to feel for food that could be stuck at the back of those handles. Usually you don't know unless you feel for it with your hand. And when you do, you just go ahead and wipe a few more times just to make sure there's nothing left on those back of those refrigerator handles. And here she notices her rag is a little drier than she wants it to be, so she goes ahead and just makes it a little bit more moist, and she continues along her wiping of those front cabinets. Just working top to bottom. and going left to right. And here she wipes the front of that ledge on the kitchen window. The kitchen window is a very important area to clean. There's always food splatters that get sprung all over the kitchen window, especially when it is above the kitchen sink. This is one area that always has to get cleaned every single time you are cleaning in the kitchen. And right in this corner, the customer has the feeding station for her pets. And you would switch out to your blue rag and use your all-purpose cleaner. And you would wipe the baseboards and move those bowls so you can clean behind and underneath them, and wipe the floor by hand. And by doing it this way, you save yourself time and energy in that you will not have to do it when you are vacuuming and mopping the floors. And the final phase for the kitchen counter will be the polishing phase. In this phase, you will just go ahead and spray any of the areas where you know will require for you to polish. And here we're just spraying the stainless steel in all the areas where stainless steel cleaner will be needed. And here she sprays us our all-purpose instant clean. It's our polishing phase, and this polishes the counters, and it's a finishing product just to make everything real shiny and super clean, and clean to the touch as well. When the customer runs their fingers through, it will feel smooth and everything will be shiny and pleasing to the eye. So this is the final step. And it is the step that you must complete when you're cleaning all the counters in the kitchen. It's also the final step when you're cleaning the counters in the bathrooms. It's also the final step when you are completing the cleaning of the faucets and the tubs and all the glass shower doors. It is the polishing phase, and this is to make sure that everything is super clean and it's clean to the touch and it's pleasing to the customer's eyes. So in this phase, you'll just be going ahead and wiping everything and polishing it, just making sure there are no streaks left anywhere. And you notice she's pretty close, and she comes down to really look at the counter from different angles. And this is because you usually cannot see streaks from a distance. You have to be fairly close for you to see it. So while you are going ahead and wiping, you're also checking for streaks and making sure there's no food left over on those counters still stuck on. There are no stains, and everything will look good when the customer comes through to check everything. So you're also checking your work as you are going along this phase. And everything gets polished up. You see how shiny that sink is after you have put the stainless steel cleaner in there. Very different, and it makes all the difference from you just leaving it unpolished. So you must complete this step, and everything gets put back to where the customer had it. And if it was not in any organized fashion, this is when you would make everything look super neat and organized. And you put everything back in a professional way, in the way that the customer would be pleased when they walk into the room and they see that A person that cares has in fact been cleaning and taking care of their belongings. The work is not rushed, so you really have taken your time and you've put in time and effort to make sure everything looks good and is pleasing to the customer's eyes. Just polish everything off. Polish off the front of that microwave, the top, the sides, anywhere where the customer will see. You want to check the inside of that microwave one last time. Just make sure there's nothing left in there. If there is, just go ahead and wipe it off. Check the top. You're checking yourself as you are completing this phase. You're checking everything. There's no food, no stains left over, no streaks. And everything is left shiny. Anything you can polish up, go ahead and polish it up. And this is where it has their kitchen trash. And we have to wipe the area around where the trash is housed. In this case, it is the inside of a cabinet, so we have to wipe the inside of the cabinet where that trash is kept. If it's leaning up against the wall, then you have to wipe the wall around the cabinet. This customer has already taken the trash out for us, so we don't have to change out that trash bag. The final step will be to fill the countertops with your bare hands. This is just to make sure there's no lint left over. If there was, you just go ahead and wipe one more time with the dry yellow rag that will lift off any lint. And that would conclude the cleaning in the kitchen.